Hello, this is Stu Anderson. We're back from our episode of Libertarian Uncensored podcast regarding Twit. The NATO Treaty does not supersede the Constitution from reason I posted that. And I said, yeah. So I said it doesn't really matter what the founders actually wrote down when it comes to the Constitution. What matters is how people are interpreted. As I like to say, laws don't matter. Well, they're just words in the newspaper. What matters is how they're enforced. So that's why, you could argue that NATO has always been unconstitutional, but that the U.S. government, which is a lot more willing to interact with foreign nations now, is more will is going to be more likely to justify it, even if the founders wouldn't have. I personally think if people want to fight in the war, they should be able to, but they shouldn't be forced to do so if they don't want to. That's my thoughts there. Then we have France's police unions are mobilizing to defend their impunity from Jacobin.com by Paton Fortin. And yeah, I personally don't really care for the police. I think the police are just. I don't think we should have a specific class dedicated to protecting the law. I think that's the people in general's job to enforce the law as they see fit. But the thing is that the police are naturally gonna they're gonna try and defend themselves, especially if in riots, and that's something that people need to remember. So I definitely think we need the police to some extent, but yeah, especially because yeah. Uh, I definitely think, that, yeah, especially since if they are using unions, I personally think if unions want to work together, they should be able to, but I personally do think that, the union is inherently collectivist, and that is something to remember as well. Yeah. Then we have, I am convinced that there is no greater threat to humanity than the technocratic elites that seem incapable of considering the second order effects of their decisions, by Clint Russell on Twitter, and I posted that, and I said, block, yeah, that was when he linked to, uh, breaking 911 post that says Biden administration supports studying how to block the sun to combat climate change. And I said, blocking out the suns, the Simpsons really did predict everything. It's like when the Simpsons in 1995, they have to where Mr. Burns tried to block out the sun, and now the U.S. government's trying to do that. The Simpsons, I was always saying, oh, they've been predicting everything, but it looks like they really did predict this one. And they also predicted the Trump presidency, so not too surprising. Then we have 20 Republican Christian AGs just wrote a proposal to deny free school lunches to LGBTQIA students. In other words, they don't think particular humans deserve food. They think they should starve. This is American Christianity at Rabbi Harvey. Sadly, your next governor is one of these AGs from NBCNews.com by Chi-Town20. And I said, I personally don't think there ain't no such thing as a free lunch. It's just if the government is able to deny funding for any reason, yeah, so you need to produce lunch for labor. Just because students are LGBTQIA and are not time fine doesn't mean they get free. The lunches make lunches any more free. They are naturally going to cost labor to produce, even if people think they don't, because there's nothing in this world for free, as Casey Elephant likes to say. That was the yeah, you know nothing is gonna be free. Legacy admissions is affirmative action for Nepo babies. Arguably, it's anti-capitalist. And that's Chi-Town20. He posted a tweet from our White People Twitter, who posted the tweet from the Associated Press. Civil rights legal group filed a lawsuit over legacy admissions at Harvard University, saying the practice discriminates against students of color by giving an unfair boost to the mostly white children of alumni. And I think, yeah, I think, if people want to discriminate, I think they should be able to. I think they should be forced to do so. I think it comes with stuff like legacy missions. They have to do legacy missions. I think they should be able to, but I don't think they should be forced to do so. Same with affirmative action discrimination. I think they should be able to do that. But I think it just depends on if they want to justify something, as long as the NAP doesn't violate, I think they should be able to do it. Then we have Jimmy Lai, jailed by Communist China while fighting for freedom in Hong Kong from John Stossel. And yeah, I definitely think that's sad. The communists are really taking over Hong Kong, and sadly, a lot of people. I don't know if Jimmy Lai's a perfect guy, but one guy at 8 o'clock here in the comments saying, okay, according to the CIA and Falun Gong, they could be, they could definitely be playing a role in the story. But the thing is that Jimmy Lai might be a perfect person, and he might be on the side of Sierra Falun Gong. But you just can't be justifying throwing people in prison for no reason. So it might be something to think about. Like we shouldn't be justifying throwing people in prison for no reason. But increasingly, I think you're going to see that justified people getting thrown in prison for reasons like wrongthink or going against the social credit system. Is debating debt policy actually terrorism from Reason.com, and I posted that. I said, sounds like the Reddit Twitter path of argument. If you just group someone at all and label them a fascist, terrorist, Nazi, Hitler, bigot, etc. He's right about the U.S. government being a legitimate bunch of thugs, though, but not for the reasons he thinks. I was Jamal Bowman, I think, said that, So he called him economic terrorists, but I think I would argue with that, but he just called the Republicans that. I think they're all. I would consider them all that personally, but he probably would disagree with that. He probably says, "Oh no, it's only when they're not in my party," But I think they're pretty much the same party, So that's my thoughts there. Rise of the student loan issue from Twitter.com, and that's a post from the LP National Twitter by Dr. Who 07, and the LP National Twitter tweeted, the root of the student loan problem is that the federal government gives out student loans at all. When you guarantee these loans, schools will subsidize useless programs and raise their prices because the money is guaranteed. I agree with that, I think we shouldn't be justifying, force the government throwing all this money around. The government is comically bad with money. That's why they just use more and more of each year. And soon, when back in like the 1890s, Congress spent like $1 billion. Benjamin Harrison famously had the $1 billion Congress, which spent $1 billion. And that was a lot of money back then. Now they spend that in like 5 seconds. This is how bad it's getting. Soon we'll have like a $1 quadrillion Congress, and that will be nothing compared to like in 20 years we'll probably have a infinity Congress that just spends infinite money. And now we there's really nothing we can do about it. We need to hold the government accountable and just stop letting them throw out money. But sadly, I don't think that's anytime going to happen anytime soon. Then we have Bud Light and outrage fatigue from Powerful Jerry on YouTube. And I think, I personally definitely do see. I definitely agree with Joe's point in this video too. Is there's just so many issues. You got to follow the money, and people are there's just all these divisive issues that just come up, and they're all the most important issue, and people are kind of tired. That's the outrage fatigue, and you just got to follow the money. Who's really pulling the strings. And I doubt it's people who we know who are open in public. I think they're all behind the scenes. That's my thoughts there. Then we have I'm leaving Reddit by your state officer, and yeah. So I said they'll probably be back. Alternatives Reddit and other social media giants like Twitter and Facebook don't usually end up lasting. Sadly, see vote. That was a previous Reddit clone they had. It was attracting more of a right wing clientele, but yeah. So I don't think it'll end up lasting. The thing with these social media sites is they've gotten too big to fail, and that's you're kind of seeing that play out right now. Twitter can rate limit people, and that's not enough to kill them anymore. So it's like the company's gotten too big to fail, but the people need to let it fail eventually. So we'll see how it goes. Yeah. Then we have July 4th isn't about national allegiance; it's about national divorce from LP National. I posted a tweet from LP National. I posted that. I said, agreed. National allegiance can also be very fickle. It's why my allegiance is to liberty above all else. So that's why I think we gotta stand up for liberty, and you gotta stand up for nullification liberty and not obeying people just because they're supposedly in positions of authority. No one, I think, would ever have a legitimate authority unless you feel like they do. So that's my thoughts there. You know, yeah. If you think something is unjust, if even if it's a policy I disagree with, you should support nullification of it if you think a policy is unjust. So that's my thought there. We have the future of ourselves Libertarian Uncensored by XV9D that are looking for new mods because they apparently having problems with their old ones. I used to mod them, but they didn't like how free speech Appaloosa I was because that's why I believe in uncensorship. So that's my fault there. I don't believe in censorship. I believe in uncensorship. Then we have review the Imperial Supreme Court by Flinsbon. That's a Harvard Review article. A review paper that analyzes rulings made by the current SCOTUS and finds its rulings wildly inconsistent with any given interpretation of American law or the Constitution. Wherever it finds that the only consistent explanation for the court's rulings is that conservative members decide cases based only on their own political positions, a purely activist court. I think they're all kind of activists to an extent. I think if Hillary won the election, we'd probably have a liberal activist court. So, I personally think if you want to think the court's an activist court, I think all judges are activists to an extent. I think that's why I don't think the legal system is legitimate because if judges are going to be inherently biased, and that's something to remember. We should be remembering that the legal system isn't some people appointed by God. They're appointed by man, and that's why I think we need to stand up to the legal system and say, I don't believe you made the correct ruling. I think this ruling is illegitimate, and I think the whole court system is illegitimate. Then we have the risks of harvest failures in multiple global bread baskets have been underestimated. Researchers said should be a wake-up call about the threat climate change poses to our food systems. Immigration needs to be legalized for labor wage agreements to stabilize populations by Chi-Town20 from France24.com. And I personally would agree with that. I think we need as many immigrants as possible for when it comes to farming and stuff like that, and other jobs as well. If they feel like doing them, I think people should be able to live wherever you want as long as you're not violating the NAP. Then we have finally an explanation for the explosion in the anti-ESG AstroTurf PR seen recently. Scope-free emissions reporting from the Intercept.com. That's by Patam Furchan. And I would definitely. That's from. Let's see. So that's what the headline is. ESG, the right's desperate push to tank ESG and avoid disclosing climate risks. The Intercept are kind of a left-leaning outlet, but yeah, I definitely think yeah. Yeah, I like what Flimsy Out 5563 says. It's all smoke and mirrors. Pay attention to what I tell you. Now I'm doing with my hands. ESG, it's all just kind of distraction. They just kind of say, oh, we are, it's just the government kind of offering incentives to culture war. The culture war is just kind of distraction, and that's kind of important to remember as well. So that's why you got to remember that it's just kind of all just kind of distraction. Like I said earlier, follow the money. See who's really pulling the strings. Then we have, this is of course not targeting any specific freaking poster on the sub by Patam Furchan, and that is a clip of the comic Tom Dancing Bug by Ruben Bowling, and it says, Class 20 college admissions curating campus, and maybe because we value athletics, maybe because we value geographic diversity, maybe because we value arbitrary tests of intelligence, maybe because we value leadership, maybe because we value legacy tradition, maybe because we value cultural diversity, maybe because we value extracurricular activities, maybe because we value socioeconomic diversity, maybe because we value first-generation students, maybe because we value massive parental donations, and maybe because we value unusual perspectives, it may be because we value sexual orientation diversity, maybe because we value artistic talent, maybe because we value musical ability, and maybe because we value high school acting performance, and they are, And then they have maybe to be evaluate racial slurs, and there's an X over that guy, and he says, "This is allowed by order of the Supreme Court. This is the only factor not allowed to be considered because race is so important in our society." Well, I think the order is kind of racist, the affirmative action. But I think if people want to be racist, they should be allowed to be racist. I think that's why. I think I personally, if you want to justify affirmative action, I think you should be able to do so. And that's why I think yeah. Then we have here's what happened after California banned affirmative action 25 years ago from NPR.org. Let's see. I personally think if you want to ban affirmative action, I really, I think it's yeah, I like what Omega Felix tweets. Omega interactions, lazy, working racist, and divides working class deal for root issues. I think mentorships are the way to go instead. I agree with that. Then we have we adopt them, and why adopt them in the first place? Not a drag queen. That's a post from Chi-Town 20, and it's a tweet from Bex at Antifa Operative. A Texas Christian University professor has been arrested for raping his own adopted children. So that's just kind of another agenda post by them. A lot of scumbags out there, all sides of the political spectrum. Should publicly funded universities be allowed to discriminate based on race, ethnicity? From my circles work. And he says the answer is obviously fuck no. I'm interested now. Your racist citizens are on the stop. I said I don't think they should do it, but I think they should be able to do it if they feel like it. And I think the poll is currently, let's see, I'm logged out currently because I need to check the other post that. Yeah, so let's see. So let's see what the score currently is. 1 yes to 4 no. I was the yes vote because I don't think they should do it, but I think they should be able to do it. That's my thoughts there. Then we have federal judge to Biden administration stop telling social media sites to limit free speech from Reason.com when I posted that. And I said, good news. I said, I like this part from another article that recently on the subject. Contrary to Riley's claim, the FBI has done precisely that. For instance, the FBI frequently flagged joke tweets about the 2020 election, and mass moderators Twitter takes them down. The White House itself did the very same thing, as Doty points out in his ruling. White House Digital Strategy Director Rob Flaherty personally appealed to Twitter to remove an account that parodied Biden's granddaughter. Please remove this account immediately, wrote Flaherty. 45 minutes later, Twitter complied. And I think if the government tells you to please do something, I think most reasonable people would consider that coercion, especially if they contact you directly about it. So that's my thoughts there, And especially, Chi-Town's trying to play this guy off as, he's just as the far as extremist imposing his demand people feel to the fictions of his American religious world and Christianity. Well, actually, it says I found Terry Doty was confirmed 98-0 by the U.S. Senate. Even Bernie Elizabeth Warren voted to confirm him. John McCain and Dianne Feinstein were the two who didn't vote. So they're just gonna say anyone who disagrees with them is the far right or a bigot or a Christian extremist. It's just you're not allowed to dissent at all when it comes to stuff like the suppression of misinformation on social media. Because, and remember, they'll label on everything they want misinformation or hate speech. They can label legitimate criticism as misinformation, hate speech, and we shouldn't be justifying censorship like that. How much do you care however people vote? That's a self-post I made. I said, I personally would say not at all. I think people should be able to vote for whatever they want to, and if they want to write in a fictional character or anything else, I think they should be able to do that as well. I don't think anything is legitimate just because people vote on it. Thoughts? So I think, if you, I personally think, the idea of the vote is, we should be justifying people voting for whoever they want, but I personally don't think that gives someone legitimate authority, and I think you should be able to think that, we should, as long as you're not violating the NAP. Then we have imagine trusting tech billionaires and the FBI/CIA to cry truth and falsity from Glenn Greenwald on Twitter. I posted that. I said, preach. It's question authority unless you think that authority will do what you want it to do. So that's my thoughts there, especially since, The thing is, we shouldn't be justifying censorship. My plan is that you are not entitled to other people's faults and opinions, and people should believe whatever they want to as long as the NAP isn't being violated. We need to support free speech, not censorship. If people end up hurting themselves because of something that they convince themselves of, they should be allowed to do that. It's not your body. It's my body, my choice. Especially when it comes to your faults. Your faults are part of your body. So, that's something you got to remember. Then we have, it feels like U.S. politics is so much stupid BS like this, and that's the tweet from Jamie McCall I tweeted. That was his tweet was, in Wisconsin, the governor can apparently just veto that delete specific words or even letters from a bill in order to make it something completely different, which is something completely different, sort of crazy. So reference to the years 2023 to 2024 and 2024 to 2025 was vetoed into 2023 to 2040 to 25. So, that's just kind of what the government can justify pretty much doing anything. That's why I don't think the government is legitimate. Resumes including they, them pronouns are more likely to be overlooked. New reports finds from CNBC, and I posted that, and I said, agree with Brad Palumbo's take. He tweeted, to me, they, them pronouns are 100% proxy for a toxic political perspective that I personally wouldn't want to work with. I'd agree. I said, people look for a reason to get offended by anything are insufferable to deal with. I should know given how much they use Reddit. That's pretty much all Reddit is kind of insufferable. So, yeah, I'd agree there. Then we have Everything's a PSYOP. That's kind of a video I got shared from another LP member of my state's LP, and that's got for Everything's a party of Everything's Awesome from the Lego Movie. So I think that's right. Everything is a PSYOP probably these days, especially in the age of social media. It's a tool from the ruling elite to divide us, and it's working flawlessly right now. So I guess they'll just keep it up, sadly. The Secret Service found cocaine at the White House, AP sources say from Associated Press, and I posted that. I said, Joe Blow Biden and Hunter getting down with it. So, yeah, so that's something that's, if you got caught with cocaine, you're getting life in prison probably, at least 10 years, especially if you're dealing. But if they get in the White House, it's no big deal. They won't care, especially since the Democrats in the White House, Reddit won't care. So that's just life, It's unfair like that. And then we have Dave Smith tweeting, if you actually post slavery, then you have to oppose Ukraine's conscripted military. And I posted that. I said, fuck Putin, but that doesn't mean we should let Zelensky off scot-free for his authoritarian action. Same with the U.S. Civil War when it came to Jefferson Davis and Abraham Lincoln. Just because Putin's authoritarian doesn't mean we should be justifying Zelensky's authoritarianism. People always seem to justify war authoritarianism what they deem to be good authoritarianism, though, so that's just sadly what the society we live in. People are going to justify authoritarianism when they agree with it. And I think we are going to wrap it up there, and I'll see you guys in the next episode. Bye.